Hello and welcome in to Addison, the 35th podcast, your Chicago baseball authority, brought to you by the great folks at Just Baseball Media Network. My name is Herb Lawrence. You can follow me on Twitter at Ecknerwall23. That is ECNERWAL23 for Robin Ventura at Twitter. Or if you want to go to Blue Sky, it's Herb Lawrence with a W, Herb Lawrence, dot BSKY dot social. Or if you want to write us an email, myself or Ryan Herrera, who does the Cubs version of this podcast, send it to Addison235th at gmail.com, just like my good friend Luke McDonald did. And I will start the show off with Luke's email. He asked, the White Sox need one representative for the All-Star team. With Shane Smith pitching the way he is he the front runner for the Sox in the All-Star game? And we really appreciate you for the question, Luke. And once again, if you want to leave a question, it is at Addison to 35th at gmail.com if you want to leave myself or Ryan Herrera a question or just a comment. Either one of those two things. If they're good enough, they'll make the show like Luke. I will answer Luke's question a little bit later when we get to Shane Smith, but let me tell you, he is one of the people that are definitely in the running for that right now. So I'll leave a little cliffhanger, but I'll answer that question at the end of this episode. Today, we will be discussing the White Sox getting swept by the Sacramento A's. We will tell you why it's not a bad thing that they got swept by the A's, talk about the debuting of Edgar Caro, and some good news on the DFA front. But first, the White Sox went out this weekend or this week, middle of the week, and got absolutely shellacked by the Sacramento A's. Oh my goodness. It was just a bloodletting for the most part as far as the White Sox being in any of these games, especially the two bookends of this series. On Tuesday, the White Sox went out there and got manhandled by the Sacramento A's. The score was 12-3. Sean Burke in the bullpen gave up all 12 of those runs and got pummeled. A guy that you'll hear a lot from in this major league season, Tyler Soderstrom, hit 2 home runs in that game and drove in 6 on Tuesday night. We're not done with that Tyler guy just yet. On Wednesday, a little bit more competitive. And also, it was really cold. How do I know? Because I was there. R.I.P. to Robert. It was really cold. I was sitting in the 108, and my guy Yumper's seats, he gave me those seats as a very nice gesture. That's the second time he's done that for me. Very appreciative of him. So I invited another person out. My guy Husky Bardo came out, and we had a great time out there in the cold with the guys up 108. Alex Rue was in the house. A lot of people out there. I'd say Dave Farley was in the house. A couple other people I spoke to. But while we were having a good time, the Chicago White Sox were not. It was only 1 run on the board for the White Sox, with 3 coming for the Athletics. So they lose 3-1 to the Sacramento A's. The 1 run coming off of the bat of Brooks Baldwin, which we got hyped about. It was a fun atmosphere. As I always say, people ask me, it's like, why do you go to these games? You know the team's going to be bad. Guys, if you have a thing that you enjoy, don't let anybody else yuck your yum. I love the White Sox. I hate how they play. I hate the franchise. I hate the owner. Hate is a strong word, so I detest the owner. But going to those ball games, it's always a fun time. I don't care if I'm in the 40-degree weather. I just put on a Scully and put on a deep winter jacket, and I'm good. I'm talking to my people. We're talking baseball. What can be better than drinking a couple brews, talking some baseball with your people at a ball game? To me, that is a perfect evening. If I'm not spending with my fiance Courtney, I'm spending at the ballpark or watching the Chicago White Sox on TV, which is worse because I know I'm not going to be there talking to anybody else. So if I'm going to have to struggle through White Sox baseball, I might as well commiserate with my people at the ballpark. And if it was free tickets, free 99, you know I'm going. Mercy, I tell you what. Yes. We didn't get the length also on Wednesday night that we definitely need from Jonathan Cannon. This is the second such start out of his last 3 where he didn't get out of the 5th inning. 4 1/3 innings for Jonathan Cannon. Didn't pitch poorly, but didn't get deep enough into the game where you're like, okay, at least you gave me 5 1/3 or 5 2/3, and you look decent in that outing. Like he got on Thursday from Davis Martin. While he gave up 4 runs on Thursday, He gives you 5 in the third. Now, not a great outing, not a bad outing for me. He gave up a couple home runs. I think to J.J. Bleday hit a 2-run home run off him. Lawrence Butler hit a home run off of him. So 3 of the 4 runs he gave up were hard hit home runs. But ultimately, he didn't pitch that badly where you're like, okay, we need to reevaluate this Davis Martin thing. I don't know if we need to reevaluate the Jonathan Cannon thing, but the thing that worked for him last year was to get him sent down early in the year, to get his stuff together, to get his control, command, and his mind together. I'm not saying it's that time of the day for him, especially since we don't really have anybody in the minors cooking right now that can take his spot. And then majors, Bryce Wilson's looking really rough in the bullpen. Maybe he needs a change of scenery himself as far as the minor leagues, or some people are just starting pitchers. I think he was promised to be a starter when he came to the White Sox, or he thought he was going to be a starter. And his bullpen role so far for Bryce Wilson has not worked out as well as he has hoped it to be. So I think Jonathan Cannon's going to be on this squad for a minute because there's no viable options and he's not pitching poorly enough. But for the couple more of these poor outings and putting the bullpen in a trick bag with all the innings they had to cover on his short outings, he might need to see some Charlotte time down there. But as I talked about on Thursday, the White Sox lose that game 8-0 to the Athletics. They were absolutely outclassed that game. You know who got a home run? I already talked about Lawrence Butler. He got a home run. J.J. Bleday, he got a home run. Brent Rooker, he got a home run. And remember that guy I talked to you about on Tuesday? Tyler Soderstrom, he got a home run. His major league leading 9th home run of the year. That kid is on fire. So the Athletics complete the sweep of the Chicago White Sox today, a 3-game sweep, just absolute domination from the Sacramento A's. And I know you're thinking, man, Herb, this is embarrassing. The A's, why are we losing to the A's like this? The A's are trash. And I thought that same thing. When the A's were coming in town, I was like, all right, White Sox just beat Boston 2 out of 3 at home. Now they got the A's coming in town. I hear the A's. I hear their situation moving from Oakland to Sacramento. I saw a couple of the games versus the Padres. And, of course, I saw a couple of them versus the Cubs where they got killed out there in Sacramento by the Cubs. And I was like, man, maybe the White Sox can get right versus these Sacramento A's. No, sir. Sacramento, while you look at the A's name and all they've been going through, and you have the recent memory of them not being good at baseball, this wasn't anything you should be embarrassed about to be a White Sox fan as far as losing to the A's. How they lost to the A's, yes, it should be very embarrassing. But the A's themselves, I think, are what the White Sox should model themselves at. As you're a White Sox fan, you look at that A's current team, you hope that the White Sox do what they have done in the last 3 years. Because a couple years ago in 2023, the A's were just as bad as the White Sox were in 2024. I know the record didn't say as much, but they were 50-112 in 2023. The worst team in baseball. Everybody was like, ugh, how is that team even a thing? They should just leave Oakland immediately and disband the team 100%. This is just trash. How are they still standing up? And then in 2024, you're thinking that team might be worse than the 2023 Athletics team. And while the record at 69 wins and 93 losses isn't anything good, that's a 19-game improvement from year to year. And you could see what happened. Brent Rooker started coming of age. He started doing the things as a veteran that you see out of a good player. Like he started developing, hitting a lot of home runs. I think he had a 5-WAR season. You get that out of somebody on the White Sox in a couple of years, you're going to be absolutely thrilled to see a player if you had a Brent Rooker on your squad. And then this year, with all this stuff that they're doing offensively, they're top 10, folks, in most offensive categories as a team. Home runs, at bats, average, on base percentage, slugging, all of them. Top 10 in Major League Baseball. And I know you're saying that bandbox of the place they play is what's helping them. No, they actually still hit on the road, as you saw what they did to the White Sox. Tyler Soderstrom is a thing. He's hit, I think, most of his home runs here on the road, and three here in Guaranteed Rate Field / Sox Park / The Rake this week versus the Chicago White Sox. But he was crushing the ball all week. That's what you want the White Sox to be. You want them to have young stars like Tyler Soderstrom and Lawrence Butler and Jacob Wilson. You want them to have those type of guys that are young but producing at the major league level. And then veterans like Shea Langoliers as catcher and JJ Bleday, who they got from the Miami Marlins, and Brent Rooker, who, like I talked about earlier. You want that type of culmination with young and not old, but guys in their primes, I guess, on the underside of 30. I think Rooker's 30. I think Langoliers is like 28. So you have some older, not young guys, but they're producing at the major league level and becoming what they were supposed to be when they were drafted on other teams. JJ Bleday was trying to be a better player out there in Miami. He really didn't hit his potential out there. He's not necessarily there yet, but you could see him going there. Shea Langoliers with the A's, or not the A's, with the Braves. I think he got, just aced out by way too many good catchers down there, especially with Sean Murphy going out there. He got traded pretty much for Sean Murphy. Now you see him getting the playing time that he's getting, and he's out there producing to an 830 OPS. So that's what I aspire the White Sox to be. Sacramento A's type of team. I'm sure I've said Oakland A's on this thing. I don't know. I'm going to go back and listen to it. I'll mess that up, folks. When the San Diego Chargers moved from San Diego, I was still calling them San Diego Chargers for 5 to 6 years. And probably next year, I'll still call them the San Diego Chargers. It's just an old habit to break. So the Sacramento A's is what the White Sox should aspire to be. They'll see them next week. They're going to go out to Sacramento after they do a Boston, then Minnesota trip. And then they'll finish out the 3-day or three-city, 10-day trip they're going to be embarking on in Oakland / Sacramento. Damn it, I just said Oakland again. In Sacramento, I'm playing the Sacramento A's next weekend, and hopefully better results for those Chicago White Sox when they go out to Sacto. But that's exactly who I want them to be. And the White Sox kind of started off their youth movement last week when they brought up Chase Mydroth. And then we got a great message and great news while we're at the ballpark on Wednesday, telling us that Edgar Carroll was going to make his major league debut on Thursday. And while we were very sad about the results on Wednesday, you couldn't take our spirits down that Edgar Carroll, a 22-year-old catcher, was coming up finally from the minor leagues. He had earned his spot, I thought, last year and up until spring training, because there's no Matt Tice or Corey Lee or Omar Narvaez. Like, whatever they do in the major leagues, it doesn't matter for the White Sox. Not at all. You start bringing up these young players that mean something to the youth movement and to the future of the White Sox, then us fans get excited. And this is what we need to be doing, White Sox fans, looking forward to these players coming here. It's not necessarily the Michael Kopech making his debut or Yohan Moncada making his debut, but that type of feeling of, okay, we're in a rebuild. The excitement from this rebuild is seeing the young players grow, seeing the young players come up from the minor leagues and see what they can do at the major leagues. Now, he made his major league debut, Edgar Carroll, on Thursday, and he went 0-for-3. His first at bat, he got hit by a pitch, but for the most part, he didn't look overmatched. Not at all. He looked like a player that deserved to be there at the major league level. And I am excited to see what he can do with the bat as a switch hitting catcher, young 22-year-old switch hitting catcher, and what he's going to do behind the dish, both working with the pitchers and throwing out runners and keeping the running game for the opposing team down. But I heard some disturbing stuff from manager Will Venable as relayed to Steve Stone and John Triffin on the CHSN broadcast today, where it seems like Will Venable says that he's not going to be giving Edgar Carroll the lion's share of the catching duties. There'll be some type of platoon going on with Edgar Carroll, Matt Tyson, when Corey Lee gets back, and him. And you don't bring up a 22-year-old catcher just so he can sit on the bench for half the time. That's my problem with this whole thing. Like, we've only gone through one game, so hopefully Will Venable and the White Sox staff thinks this through and realizes that catchers got to play. Young players got to play, especially young switch hitting catchers have to play because that swing can get stale if you're just going to be sitting on the bench. If you're just a right-handed only hitter or a left-handed only hitter, imagine if you're a switch hitter and you only get at bats from the left side when a right-hander pitches, or vice versa. Your other swing can be out of whack and out of sorts. And with Matt Tice being a left-handed catcher, you would think that Edgar Carroll would only or mainly only get his at-bats versus left-handed pitchers, left-handed starters. And so I don't want that. You bring up a young player, play him. To have him rust on the bench to give playing time to Matt Tice, that's managerial malpractice. You can't have that. And I want Will Venable to know that right now. That is not how you're supposed to do this whole thing. No one wants to come to the ballpark to see Matt Tice except for Matt Tice's family. That's it. No slight to him. Nothing personal about him. But that man's not for the future of the White Sox. And even if Matt Tice has his best Matt Tice year, you're not going to get anything worthwhile from a Matt Tice trade at all. Give me, if you're playing 6 games during the year or during the week, give me Edgar Carroll 5 times behind the dish. You get Corey Lee and or Matt Tice in for that 6th game. At minimum 4 of those 6 games. At minimum. But if it's a 50-50 split, or God forbid, a Matt Tice dominated catcher ordeal, what are we doing? You bring up this young player to play him. If you didn't want to play him, you should have kept him down there in the minor leagues. I like what they're doing in Chase Mydroth. I wish they would actually a little bit more keep him at one position, either second base or shortstop. But the versatility doesn't matter right now because they don't know who's going to be coming up as far as Colson Montgomery, who's struggling down in the AAA right now. So they need to get Lenyn Sosa, who's hitting pretty decently right now. Some starts at first, some starts at second. And when he gets starts at second, Lenyn does. They got to have some Chase Mydroth at shortstop. So it's fine for now, but I'm sure the kid would like some stability and know which position he's playing. But he's playing every day, and that's what I need from Edgar Carroll. Same thing when they bring up Kyle Teel. I don't know if he's going to be all-time catcher or he's going to be a first baseman or a designated hitter or in the outfield. Wherever he is, when he does come up, give him the lion's share of the playing time over these vets who are not going to be here in 2 to 3 years from now. You can't let these kids rust on the bench. You got to give them playing time as much as they can. This is the year to do it. Us fans are willing to watch the struggles of these young players and let them struggle as much as they can. Don't send them back down. We're not the Cubs, as the Cubs send down Matt Shaw this week because he was struggling mightily at third base in his major league first month. This is a situation where the White Sox are not going to be competing for a championship, any type of championship. So you got to give all the playing time to these young players and let them sink or swim however they're going to do it. Goodness gracious. I hope these White Sox do not mess up that young kid. As we transition to some actual good news, the White Sox moved on from Omar Narvaez. That was a corresponding move from the Edgar Carroll call-up. Omar probably won't be picked up by anybody else, and he'll be reassigned to AAA as soon as he is cleared waivers for the White Sox. That's what I'm thinking. But in a surprising but awesome move, the White Sox also DFA'd earlier in the week Mike Clevenger. Yes! Finally. That guy is gone. Son of a bitch, he's not gone. He's going to clear waivers. He's going to be accepting an assignment down there in AAA. We'll see him in 2 to 3 weeks because the White Sox are a dumb team and they can't quit that bum-ass pitcher who's a terrible person also. So while I celebrate that bum-ass pitcher getting DFA'd by the White Sox, I know this is a bad organization. They're just going to bring him back up in a couple weeks after he spends some time down in Charlotte and say, oh, he fixed what he had to work on. This is the guy that they staked their closer hopes on. A guy who had never been a closer in the major leagues. This is how bad this organization is. A guy who had 16 innings last year. And they're like, yes. No one in the major leagues picked this guy up? Yes. You know what we're going to give him? A premium spot, a high leverage spot in our bullpen. Yes. Awesome. Finally, they woke up and said, let's not do that anymore. And I hope when he does clear waivers, they just outright give his release and say, all right, we gave it a try. There's nothing here. Bye, Mike. And I guarantee no other major league team will pick him up. He'll go and play with his buddy out in Japan, where he should be, because he's bad at baseball and a terrible person. Luis Robert's still bad at baseball right now, but he has some value on defense. His offense has been poor. His defense has been solid. One player that can't say either of the two things is Andrew Vaughn. I don't know what's going on. He hit a home run this week. First inning home run versus Sacramento A's on Tuesday. Those are the 3 runs the White Sox scored that game. But that's it. Like, he's just really bad. Hitting below the Mendoza line this deep into the season is atrocious. He's a corner infielder. He's supposed to be hitting. And Miguel Vargas, I don't even put in this conversation because I'm not depending on Miguel Vargas. I'm depending on Andrew Vaughn to be the Silver or the Golden Spikes Award winner, the 3rd pick in the MLB draft that he was in his 5th year of his career. But no, he is getting worse as we see it. And I posited that we, as the White Sox, should do what the Detroit Tigers did last year to Spencer Torkelson and send him down to the minor leagues. Show him that, yes, we value you, but you can't struggle at the major league level and keep your job, especially when Tim Elko's down there in AAA hitting everything in sight and ready to go. Like, give me Tim Elko. Send Andrew Vaughn down to the minors. And if he doesn't find it, cool. DFA time. It's been 5 years. You've given him ample time. The excuses are over. He's not playing outfield anymore. It's not his first year playing first base. It's not all the rest of the excuses that we as White Sox fans have given him. It's his 5th year. It's time to produce. He hasn't produced in this short period of the season. Time to bring up Tim Elko. Time to send Andrew Vaughn down to the minors. Because if you see the fruits and what's happened to Spencer Torkelson since he got sent down last year to Toledo Mount Hins by the Detroit Tigers, guy's been a different guy. OPSing over 1,000 this year. You saw him with the walk-off hit versus the White Sox early in this year. He's being the guy that was drafted 1 overall a couple years ago in 2020. Now, I don't know if Andrew Vaughn can get to there, but they're both NorCal guys, both Pac-12 guys, former Pac-12 guys, both drafted high in the draft, both playing first base in the AL Central. Sometimes you need a little humbling, and sometimes you need a little kick in the ass to get to where you need to be. And I want Andrew Vaughn to get there, but he's not there yet. And it sends a message to the rest of the organization that, yeah, you could be an established veteran like Andrew Vaughn, but if you're struggling mightily, you could be sitting back down. This is a meritocracy, and demotions happen. If you're not doing the job at the major league level, and a guy in the minor leagues is, we're never afraid to bring him up and send you down as a veteran. Do it. I'm all for it. Please. Whatever is good for the team is what I'm here for. Andrew Vaughn's not good for the team right now. I don't think he will be good for the team if you allow him to continue to be this bad of a player at first base as he's been for the majority of his career. Now, the White Sox, as I said, are embarking on a 3-city, 3-team, 10-day road trip starting on Friday. They got 4 games versus the Boston White Sox, the Boston Red Sox, a wraparound series starting on Friday. They're shipping up to Boston with Martin Perez pitching on Friday versus TBD for the Boston Red Sox. Saturday, the marquee matchup of the weekend. We got Shane Smith, a Boston area native, going against Garrett Crochet, former White Sox hurler. Just had this matchup on Sunday where Garrett Crochet and the Boston Red Sox salvaged one game of that series and got the victory. A nice rematch in Boston on Saturday afternoon. On Sunday, we got another mass hole. It is Sean Burke versus Tanner Houck. And calm down, folks. That's what they call themselves, mass holes. Massachusetts people. And on Monday, the Boston Marathon will be going on. It's Patriots Day in Boston. So they'll be playing a game 10:10 local time here in Chicago. And on Patriots Day is where they celebrate Christian Foria, Ty Law, Lawyer Malloy, Tom Brady by beating up the White Sox. And Jonathan Cannon will take the bump versus Walker Buehler, the former LA Dodgers. So after that 4-game set, early game on Monday, I will have another episode of Addison to 35th for you. And hopefully for the White Sox sake and my sanity, they grab 2 out of those 4 games. If they get swept in all 4 of those games, they will have another 8-game losing streak because they are currently on a 4-game losing streak after getting beat by the Sacramento A's on Thursday. My name is Herb Lawrence. You can follow me on Twitter at EctorWall23, EctorWall23 on Twitter. You thought I was going to leave your question there, didn't you, Luke? I didn't. I didn't forget your question. I believe that Shane Smith is second place right now for the White Sox All-Star representative in the All-Star game this year. The only reason I don't think he will be the guy as of now is because of name recognition and because another pitcher is pitching just as well, if not better, than he is currently, and that is the Friday starter for the Chicago White Sox in Martin Perez, a veteran that's been around the league for at least 15 years, I think. It feels like that. People know him. I think managers know him, and that's the people who are going to be naming the pitchers in the All-Star game. So Shane Smith, while pitching well right now, doesn't have enough cachet in that name, and Martin Perez has been doing well for himself. So I think as of right now, I think Martin Perez will get the nod over Shane Smith. Now, Shane Smith keeps on pitching like he is now, and Martin Perez swells back to the natural numbers that Martin Perez has done in the last couple of years, which is good, solid, decent. Maybe Shane Smith can get the nod over Martin for this year. Hopefully for both of them, the White Sox are doing so well, they get 2 people out there, Martin and Shane Smith out there. I don't even know where the All-Star game is this year. I would venture a guess, but I won't want to do it right now. You're probably yelling at your screen right now where it's at. Yes, you got it right there. Yes, you got it. Yeah, they're going to play at that stadium. Awesome. Perfect. Thank you for helping me out right there. That'll do it for today's Addison to 35th podcast. My name again is Herb Lawrence, EctorWall23 on Twitter, ECNER, WAL23. If you want to leave a email or a question, something on Addison to 35th for myself or Ryan, Addison to 35th at gmail.com, just as Luke McDowell just did right there, and I answered that question at the end of the episode. So for Ryan Herrera, who will have a Cub coverage for you all year long on Addison 35th, my name is Herb Lawrence. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Addison the 35th.